No
Gets back home
quorum,
like at
meeting
6
adjourned.
o'clock tomorrow morning, lays down, gets
And then
back
hit
up.
your
Good evening. I'm going to open up for a BZA meeting. We don't have a quorum, so I'm going to close that meeting. We'll open up the meeting for the Planning Commission. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight on the Planning Commission, we've got a couple things to go over. One of the biggest things we want to talk about tonight is signage. We have a signage ordinance that meets absolutely none of the signs that we currently have displayed in the town. So we need to go through and revamp some of the ordinances to meet what we currently have. So our freestanding ordinance currently says you can't have anything more than a 4x5 sign.
3x5.
Or 3x.
3x5 is what I bought.
It's a temporary sign in the town business district. That's a temporary sign, and it's only 3x5.
Okay,
15
temporary 3x5.
So you want to allow a permanent sign, and we'll have to decide what size.
So, yeah. So that's a pretty small sign even for temporary. But I've kind of been doing some measuring of signs around town, and from what I'm seeing, if we opened up our permanent sign structure to 5x6 freestanding, that should incorporate everything we currently have, and that's 5x6 of signage, not the total height of the sign, but 5x6 by signage. Because your sign measures about 48 inches tall, roughly, if I remember right when I come by. It's 48 by 66 or something like that. The Banks is, the actual sign itself is like 48 by 66, so, or 62, I think it was. So those are kind of the biggest signs in town. So I'm thinking if we could, I was trying to stay within that. You know, I don't want to build an ordinance, half the signs in town still not meet the ordinance. But that's for a freestanding sign.
What about a maximum height? This is
So,
the current.
Yeah.
The current temporary sign, the maximum height is 10 feet, which is,
Wow, that's high.
yes, but it has a 5-foot setback.
Okay.
I would tell you that you probably, in the town business district, allow that to be right up to the property line, depending on the site triangle that's in here, which, like, if you got a corner so you don't have a blind spot.
Right.
And that would be the 10 foot too, because in a car you're not going to block the view of anything 10 foot high.
Right. That's true.
Technically, I mean, the only thing that you might have is a semi coming through, but I don't think they even said 10 foot. They
No.
don't.
What?
But
The semi cab.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't block the view.
No.
so,
Well,
So you're looking at setback, and you say you do have parameters for a triangle, or for a vision triangle.
yeah, the code is got it in here for a vision triangle. I'm trying to visibility triangle, maximum height. This says 9 feet. It could be 10 if located within 3 feet of driveway and 3 feet of parking area, or within 50 feet of an intersection or 2 or more streets.
Okay.
So it's there's a formula within here.
Within there to match that out.
Hmm.
Okay.
And it's all through here, and that's a pretty common metric on a lot of codes.
Okay.
And it's meant so, like, you're coming up to where 39 turns that corner, so you don't have a blind spot.
Right. That would be the biggest concern. I was trying to figure out how to come up with some way for the vision issues.
We've already got, it's already in here.
That's established, okay. So then we gotta look at, you know, signage, do we allow, how many signs do we allow? Or do we have a number of signs that are allowed, that kind of thing,
Well, this would allow one of those freestanding per lot,
per lot? Okay,
which is what I would tell you. And that freestanding can advertise like multiple businesses.
well, see, now that gets you into, so we don't, yeah, okay, cause I guess that would be our code then, right, okay.
So if you've got, I'll just use across the street, the copper, and then the other businesses there. They have whatever square feet you allow them, and if they want one business to take up half of it and break it down.
So you're saying you do that but they could okay, so this is where I'm gonna, so Copper Top's a business, but also Allegiant Machine is a separate business. Could they have two signs, or,
It's two different lots.
well, that's what I'm saying.
But you would have a kind of a pylon sign like this with Copper Top on top.
I understand, but my question is, but there's multiple lots there. Isn't there's at least three?
If it's broke down on the
Technically, I mean, on Beacon, there are multiple lots. So where the white building sits and the gravel parking lot next to it, that's one lot.
Right.
And then that large building where Copper Top and Gypsy Den sit, that's one lot.
Okay,
And so it kind of all depends on, I guess what survey map you look at or what thing. But when you're looking on Beacon, it's divided up
It's
into
multiple.
more than one lot.
good, and this is the only thing I'm saying, because if at some point they would sell the corner lot, then they have no marketable, signage for the other than hung on the building. And really, there's no place to put it anyway, but I'm bringing this up from the standpoint of,
Because there's only one spot around the corner on the east-west section of 39 where you could put this up.
actually.
On the north-south side, the buildings are sit right up against the property line, so you couldn't put
Right,
this
you
type of
couldn't put
sign.
that kind of sign, you'd have to hang it off the building.
If you think of this as a modern development, like with a Walmart and some outlots in front of it, this is the common pylon sign.
Okay.
And a lot of times you'll have a common pylon sign, and it's got tied to the deed that these other ownerships can have access to. There's ways
Right,
to deal with that.
okay. But, so, if I look at a piece of property like that, is 5 by 6 gonna be enough? You see what I'm saying? If you have multiple locations for visibility, cause a common pylon for a Walmart is 5 foot wide and 20 foot tall,
Could be.
and that's where I'm not trying to complicate it, but I'm trying to understand what happens in the events of, how do we handle this? I'm looking at future problems down the road, not that I expect a bunch, but just trying to figure out the best way to do that. Because at some point, if James would develop down there on 39, on his frontage road, for commercial along 39, then at that point, he's gonna have to have a frontage road, and signage will be an issue.
That's,
I don't know that I want a sign in front of every building down 39,
there is a difference there.
okay?
That would be under the highway business district.
Okay,
Not
so
the-
that would change, we got somebody at the door.
Should be open.
Oh, no, they're just putting mail in or something, I'm sorry. Yep, they're doing something,
Water in the mums.
taking mail out of the box. Oh, no, she's trying to get in, it's, pardon me, Cindy, yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm doing what?
she's carrying a box of goodies, I guess.
It's not quite done, but it's dry enough to pick up, so. Hi. Thank you. Sorry, I had to help my girl move.
Gotcha. No worries.
So that would fall because that's not Old Town,
Correct. That would be highway business. So that-
highway business.
So, which is set up much more under a newer style thinking.
Okay,
I thought when we looked at that zoning map, we actually didn't have any highway business.
You don't yet.
Okay.
But if I was to zone that for that property out there, I would put it under the highway business
Okay.
category.
All right. Gotcha.
Because it'll have the setbacks, instead of being set up against the street, which your town business district.
right,
will
it'll
allow.
have to have a frontage road and all kinds of stuff, or parking lot or something.
Yes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different things there, cause in your town business district, your parking is totally different than what your highway business would be.
Yeah.
And most modern, centers of any kind will wanna have the
Sure,
traditional parking.
Sure, okay. Okay, so you're saying 5x6 is okay with a maximum height of 10 foot is what you're recommending?
And no setback, you're taking the setback out? Is that what I understood?
I would tell you to allow it to go up to the setback or something, cause this says 5 feet. The sign that's out there, the temporary one that's out there today is essentially right up on the
Sidewalk.
sidewalk, which
So,
would be.
okay, so if we said, what if you could be right to the sidewalk, not, cause you're saying setback is 0 from
The property line.
from the
and
property line.
the sidewalk is probably, the edge of the sidewalk is probably real close to the property line.
I'm sure it is, based on this, but there's other areas so maybe in the old town business district, because you gotta watch, some areas of this town, the property line's in the middle of the road.
There is a provision for that sets that back, even if it still goes to the
Okay,
middle of the road.
okay,
It's called a prescriptive easement.
okay,
There's
No.
some technical stuff to that.
okay,
That just means there's not been any replatting of it for a long time.
yeah, right.
Alright, so 30 square feet or 6 by 5, maximum height 10 feet, with the vision triangle that's already,
And if you wanted a setback a foot or 2 feet,
and no,
that would be up to you. 5 foot gets.
I mean, a couple feet, I think is at least bare minimum from at least the edge of the sidewalk to me. You know, that's what I don't, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I guess I don't have a great big issue with it either way. I just think that if your signage has got to be, cause we're gonna have other areas that we're gonna have setbacks that are required by the state. Leanne's, I'm sure you've got a requirement from the state on your sign, that they never, it's been there so long, nobody's ever said anything.
Well, it's like the Pizza King
It's been there
sidewalk.
for 42
Yeah,
years, I
so-
don't,
The Pizza
I don't
King
know that anybody's ever said.
one, the pole is within what, a foot of the sidewalk?
No,
Technically, isn't yours it's not permanent, is it? It's one of them lighted
no, she's
signs,
got
correct?
a
No, I've got
posted
a
sign.
permit.
It
so
says Davis
the big
Floral.
blue one with the
Big
red
blue.
lettering that's kinda
Davis.
cursive,
Yeah.
says Davis Floral, that's a permanent.
Oh,
You were thinking of
I'm
the
thinking
wood
of the lighted
She has a
one that you
marquee,
change
right,
out
she has
the-
right, she has one of those also,
Yeah.
but she has a permanent sign
I
that
guess
says
I've
Davis
just never
Floral.
paid attention. I'm always reading the.
Reading the words on the
Yeah,
other one?
exactly.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I thought the same thing till I went, it was kinda going around measuring stuff and I'm like, oh, there is a sign there. But,
But you tell me what you want me to do and
so I'm up for input here, cause I'm,
I don't see a problem with running it right up to the sidewalk. The only problem that you have, technically, the sidewalk crew is not supposed to go past the sidewalk where the sidewalk is onto someone else. But if you had a guy set a post right on, dig his punch his hole right here, and they gotta rip it out, and then they can't form it because
well, so
that's the only trouble I could see. So if you just set a foot,
I'd have to,
that would cover.
and don't think sidewalk, think property line.
property line, not
No,
sidewalk.
I understand, but
Yeah,
if
and
the
that's-
property line is at the edge of the
Yeah.
sidewalk for
It
whatever
may be in
reason.
a lot of it, yeah, it's gonna be real close, cause the state's, I'm sure there's got to be some fudge factor on the state with that. I don't know what I'd have to,
You have to survey it to find it.
well, or at least look at something where they've done that. Cause they expand, when they widened 39, that sidewalk used to just be a standard sidewalk. And
You have to
Like
go
a
back and find the
4
plans.
foot sidewalk,
a 3-foot sidewalk.
oh really?
Oh, yeah, and then when
And then
they
they
come.
made it 10 feet?
And they made that big yeah, they come through and took a bunch of easement, okay, cause they bought a lot of easement from people, when they added the new sidewalk. So, that's what I'm saying, I don't know exactly where,
When did they put the new sidewalk in?
when they redid 39,
I know, I was trying to
About
think.
13, probably
13,
14.
12. No, it's for that,
Mm,
wasn't
I was already there.
it? Okay.
I mean, they've worked on it a few times, but
But when they actually ripped the road up and
Yeah.
gutted it and put all the new
that
storm
was
sewage in.
13.
12 or 13, somewhere in there. Okay, yeah. So, because they bought a bunch of, because I know Stadler, which is the big brick house on the corner across from John's, okay? when they put that in, they had to buy easement from him to put sidewalk in. Because it had the old sidewalk right up against the road, the old 3 foot or 4 foot sidewalk, and they bought easement from him, and I wanna say they bought 10 feet off of him.
What if you just say you gotta be a foot off the foot setback off the property line,
Yeah.
and then we could give a variance. So like if you had, say, like her building up here had like 8 inches, and you could put a post in there instead of hanging on the building because it was easier. So I don't know. Put the sign.
Well, that way
you could
you
give
would-
them a variance to be right on the property
Yeah.
line at
Well,
that
there's,
point in time.
if, in that situation, you'd wanna hang it off the building, and you'd hang it over the right of way.
Right.
And there's,
Technically, yeah, but I mean, what if it just
but it can't come out over to the road, and
Right.
the other thing is you gotta make sure that whoever does that, when you're hanging out over the right of way, there's insurance, so if something happens. It's really not hard to do, and it's
Okay.
common.
No, I was just, for instance,
Yeah.
if you couldn't hang off for whatever reason, but you could put 2 poles in the ground, boom, we could give them a variance for a foot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead of, and then that way everybody else is under a foot, maybe, I don't know. Keeps everybody away from, if the property line's right on the sidewalk line, then crews have a way to form that sidewalk.
I mean, those crews do a pretty darn good job. When they redid the sidewalk on Kentucky, my steps end at the sidewalk. They ripped up the sidewalk without disturbing my steps and poured it. So they just had their 2x4 frame stopped at my steps on this side and then continued again. So it butted right up to it, and they
Yeah, that's fine.
didn't seem to have a problem. So
I don't
Not
have
sure.
a problem either way. I think that the biggest thing is gonna be knowing where the property line is. That'll be- and that'll be the,
think of 1 foot setback doesn't sound unreasonable to
Right.
do that unless anybody else has.
Much better than 5 foot.
I was gonna say, the 5 foot seems awful big to me.
I would agree with that.
There's quite a few houses that at one time were businesses. The house right next to me, she had a hair salon in it, and her porch is right there at the sidewalk. The house right here, it used to have, hair
Oh.
salons in
Oh, okay.
front. I don't know where her sign ever was, but she had a hair salon business in there. So, there's not 5 foot there, I would
Yeah.
think, from her porch to the sidewalk.
Okay.
Here's another way to create the sign, and this is coming out of your current code onto the highway business. Maximum area, 10 square feet per 10 linear feet of street frontage of the lot. So the bigger lot you got, the bigger the sign you can go.
Yeah, that's the only problem, yeah.
So, and we have a big lot.
Yeah.
The question is it one side or 2 sides that front the street?
Right, that's,
I would say it'd be one side, but that's the other way to do it.
True. But the good thing about
I still like the
big
5x6
building
because it
yours
makes it easy to
is you
administer.
can paint on it.
And if somebody wants it bigger than that, they can come and ask for a variance.
Now if we set a rule and it says 5x6 instead of 30 square feet, does that limit them to those dimensions exactly? Or if I wanted to have an odd shaped sign, instead of 6 foot by 5 foot, I want it 4 foot by,
well, I think we could say 5x6 or 30 square feet.
Well, I would just use 30 square
Just
feet because
30 square feet.
everything else just lists a square foot.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, cause if a guy got a digital scrolling sign, LED that was this tall, but it was X number of feet long to equal that 30 square feet to run.
30 foot long.
Well, you know, I almost bought a couple of them that were that long.
the little scrolling marquees.
Yeah.
They were digital signs, you could
Yeah.
program them like your guys's, but it was only, there was 2 sections, they were only this tall. We almost bought them.
I think that's reasonable. I don't have a problem with 30 square feet.
Instead of saying 6 by 5, we're gonna say 30 square feet,
Mhm.
okay? And maximum height still 10 foot.
I think that's reasonable.
Visual triangle is an exception. And it's freestanding, permanent, or temporary, right?
Both.
permanent or temporary?
I would still leave the temporary sign in there for like a realtor sign, separate. Create a permanent one.
Have two different
Correct.
standards, okay. Alright, go ahead, Cindy.
I missed your reference to visual triangle, I don't know to which you refer.
So that's a safety deal, so that is, when you have a road intersection, there's a visual triangle, there's a set of dimensions that he's got
Okay.
of how you calculate that so that you're not blocking the line of sight when you pull up to an intersection.
You'd
I
have-
thought you meant like an actual.
No, it's.
Where you're, if you would move it closer to where 39 turns the corner,
Uh-huh.
you would, if you try to put it right on the corner, you'd be in that visual
I
triangle.
gotcha. I
So-
figured it was something like that, but I wasn't sure. So
Unless it's
good.
off the
Yeah, if I pull up to the intersection and I try to look for oncoming traffic and your sign's right in the way,
Right, right.
so that's what we wanna prevent.
Okay.
So we're gonna have two different columns, freestanding permanent, freestanding temporary.
Correct. We're gonna leave the freestanding temporary as it is.
As it is.
And we're just gonna add the freestanding permanent.
Freestanding.
Okay. And this, all of these things become a recommendation we make to the town council to amend or edit the UDO.
UDO, right.
And if that's met with any kind of, I'm just curious, if that's met with any kind of resistance, like, oh, we don't want a bunch of signs this size or whatever, is there going to be somebody who is going to reference the fact that there really are a myriad of signs around town when you actually go through Clayton proper and you visually take sort of a status of them? There's all different kinds of signs, so it's already existing, I guess, is my point. Is that
Sounds like
something-
Cindy's volunteering to present this to the town council.
I couldn't even finish the dang mailbox, I'm so spent.
Right, is that what you got from
I-
it? She wants to present this
He's
to
just
the.
saying that because I accidentally said dog instead, like I was some cool thing in a text to him. I was like, "What's it say, dog? I'll be late." I meant Doug, but my voice text hates me.
Vengeances.
Yeah. The, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the presentation of this to the town council saying, hey, here's the amendment we'd like to make, we have, you know, the,
You can reference me and Jeffrey and say they
Well,
just
so
did a little
really,
Sunday
no, the
drive
funny
and
part
counted
is-
about 12 different
so-
signs.
After Doug mentions this, I'm kind of driving around town and I'm looking at signs and I'm going, we have this ordinance and we haven't got a stinking sign in town that meets it.
That's why we brought that to Doug's attention.
And so it's, yeah, and I'm like, I never really thought about it,
Yeah.
and I hadn't dealt, I mean, I dealt with the county when I put a sign up on US 40 years ago when I rented out there, and I remember the restrictions were really weird, you know, and I'm like, that's kind of an odd, but, and then you drive around town, you see all these signs, and you go, well, how did, and
I
it's,
know.
it's kind of a, but it needed redone, I think it was just something, one of those, and there's a lot of things we need to go through and highlight and fix, and
Well,
this is just one of
even
them.
outside of Clayton, just on 40, Martha's Vineyard or Martha's
Martha's
Apple
Orchard.
they're right there on a pole, like a light pole, and that's, you know, private, you know, whatever, and that's fine, I have no problem with it, but it's like nobody else, we can't get a sign on 40, I just think that Clayton's gonna
So-
start growing and we need a,
No, I
Business
You
think,
can't
district
get a
sign.
sign on 40. I've tried since we went
I
into
know.
business, and the county won't hardly give you a billboard permit.
I mean, it
To put a
doesn't have to be
billboard up.
something obnoxious, it could just be something that says, business district, Clayton, welcome to Clayton, or Clayton, Indy, you know, whatever, I just think we've got some stuff down here, you know? Get
We
people
gotta
to-
right, well, I mean,
We gotta
You know, and-
annex it into town and then we can do
People
what
have
we
to
want.
read the sign first.
to be honest, when we got this UDO presented to us last year, I mean, frankly, I read through it and saw the sign stuff, but it didn't make an impact on me because I didn't have any experience with that stuff. So, you know, if I had known more about, you know, the signage and the language there, I probably would have said something then of, hey, this sounds a little, you know, restrictive and something that isn't gonna work for our town, so let's amend it then, but, I mean, we're allowed to amend it, so this is our shot to
Yeah, I'm
go,
excited.
hey, can we make some changes to this part of it?
Okay,
And there, we'll probably run into some other things
Oh,
that,
yeah.
hey, this needs to be an amendment also, or,
no, I'm
you know,
happy
whatever.
about it.
So,
Well, that brings up another one into that same district. Yard setbacks, are typically 50 feet in all districts.
Yeah.
50 feet
50 feet.
for a yard setback?
Yep, for new construction.
Wow, we have definitely
50?
not been following that.
No, we don't.
5
We've just had a lot of new construction in the last few years and none of
Correct.
that.
I thought it was 20, we've got an overlap somewhere, cause I thought it was 25.
So you're talking about like the doubles when we built the doubles, because that's
Yeah,
in the
they-
old
they
town
were-
district.
I know we varied, the ones on,
We had the variance to get them closer together
well, but
between
we
the two
also on the
properties.
front setback on the ones on your street, on Tennessee, we varied those.
Yep,
We
so
only
the very
varied-
last page of the UDO,
All of them have been
it says
varied.
non-residential development districts, front yard
Non-residential.
setback, and it says see notes. And if it's a principal arterial, it's 50 feet, secondary arterial, it's 45 feet, collector, it's 40, local road, it's 40.
Oh, we've got.
So basically what that means is if the building, heaven forbid, burned all the way to the ground, they technically couldn't rebuild it.
You couldn't
in-
rebuild on
in the spot.
Which is not what you wanna do.
Correct.
Yeah, when we figure out how to do that separately,
We're gonna have to, I think we're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to make some,
because I believe that's in conflict with someplace else that's got something slightly different.
I know a lot.
I know we talked about it one day.
Right.
Um, let me go through and look.
I mean, when we sold that piece of property to James Penner last year, we specifically picked a new line to give him a 10-foot setback for his barn. 10 feet was what we were concerned about. It was a property line basically
Yeah, but
cut.
isn't he
But
did,
he wasn't on a collector road. He wasn't on a
No.
principal arterial either.
He's not.
That would, you probably would call that, you talking about between us and him? That'd be a side yard.
Yeah, we drew a line basically across from north to south on the very edge of our wastewater treatment plant property that next to his barn where his business is. So
Side yard setbacks are typically 10 feet in your
okay,
code, so that's probably
so that's
one.
considered a side yard.
That would be considered a side yard.
All right,
That was a little hard.
Utility road, yeah.
If that's a harder one, that's not
gotcha.
applicable.
50 feet is a lot. I mean,
Well, there's some of these lots that would take 2/3 of the lot. They're only
Yeah.
75 feet deep, and some of them. Yeah.
But on, like highway business, you'd want a 50-foot setback, cause you couldn't put a parking lot in front of it.
Well, yeah, but, you know, with highway setback though, you're dealing with you've got the state setbacks to begin with, that you can't even touch, which on 39, in some of that area is 25 feet from the edge of the road. Huh?
it's more than that.
all right. Well,
Well,
What
that's
I
another-
understood, when I looked at right there in Belleville at the light, the old antique store, I talked to them, I took their word at it, but they said that they had on, like State Road 39, State Road and US 40, they both had a 200-foot center line setback before you could build anything unless you got a special, or like an exemption to
Oh,
build
wow.
it.
Okay.
I don't know how truthful
Alright,
that
we
is,
can
that's what I took their word
continue
at.
researching those kinds of.
Yeah, we need to finish.
Let's deal with the
Things
sign
and-
one
Yeah,
now.
just-
The other one is
Yeah,
not a pressing issue.
no, we'll get this one done and we can get everybody resolved on signage and.
All right. Do you know in like presenting a modification or an edit to a current ordinance, does that have to have the same public notifications that it did when we first passed it, when we
Yes.
adopted the UDO?
Yes, it
So
has to go
he-
through the same process.
10 days,
Has to come back here.
and we have to have a public hearing here, and then we have to have 10 days between our meeting and the town council's meeting for the other public hearing, because it has to be a public hearing at the town council also, right?
I'm not
No?
100% sure. This is the public hearing, so you have to have the notice 10 days before this meeting.
Cause I know when we adopted the UDO, we had our public hearing here at the planning commission. And then we had to have a public notification and a public hearing at the town council meeting to adopt it.
Right, but I thought that was,
Was it the same when you edit or modify it?
Well, let me double check.
Okay,
so we need to have, by next meeting, we need to have it posted 10 days ahead of time.
And we'll have to,
We'll have to have a final revision of what we wanna say the edit is,
and we'll have to put the legal notice together
put
and
the
all
legal
that.
notice together, and then have it for our next November meeting. And then hopefully we can get it, so I was looking at the calendar to see where we're at to the next the council meeting, how it falls.
can you do a public notice for the town council meeting before you've actually passed it in the?
Yes,
You can,
yes.
okay, alright.
Well,
Can
so
you
that's-
use do you use your marquee for that? Is that what you
Yeah.
use?
Well, we can
That's your
do,
public notice?
you're allowed to, I mean, basically, the state law says it has to be posted on the door.
Oh,
We can put it in the Republican, we can hang a notice at the food store and at the post office, which Jenny normally does.
okay,
But we can also put it on the marquee.
okay.
It has to
Out
be
here.
publicly in like a newspaper for 10 days in the Republicans, what you guys use. It's actually written in here
So
somewhere.
if you
Oh.
filed it on the first for the town council meeting, your public,
For November
for November's
meeting.
the 11th, that would give you your 10 days there.
Okay.
And our meeting is the 2nd, and so we'd have to
So
back that up to the 22nd, the
22nd of October.
21st of October
21st
roughly.
of October.
Yeah, which is,
Because it can't include holidays or weekends, the 10 days.
oh, the 10 days can't include.
Cannot include
Okay, well, then we
holidays
gotta
or
back up
weekends.
more, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's all right.
So if that's the case, we gotta be. The 28th of October, we'd have to file for the council, and then. The 15th of October for the planning commission, so we'd have to get on that pretty quick. We'd have to file by the 15th for the planning commission.
Okay,
Well, it's gotta be published.
Published, I'm sorry.
right.
So and then we're at the mercy of their public deadlines. with the
Right, and so we
Republican.
may have to back up a little bit to, cause like if you're gonna put it in the Republican, I don't know what their dates are anymore.
But they come
And
out.
you're saying the UDO specifically says it has to be in the, because the state law doesn't say it has to be in a paper, it's just has to be published by your normal way to communicate
I know in the application, it tells you exactly what you have to publish it.
Oh, okay, alright,
If you want, we can go grab
no,
that.
that's fine, we can do that, so, any other parts of this then, we have 30 square feet is the dimensions of the new, for the new
Sign.
signage ordinance, maximum height of 10 feet, the visual triangle is gonna be kept the same. It's gonna be a freestanding permanent, one per lot, and then a 1 foot setback from the property line.
Mhm.
And that's just in the Old Town District.
That's, yeah, and this is Old Town District, yes.
Which we don't technically have an old town district, so.
Which I don't understand how we.
Town business district.
A town business district,
Now on Beacon, some of the buildings are classified as original town, and then all the other ones have an addition title to it, like Western Addition, or, Adder Addition, or whatever, so.
Yeah, this follows what you have zoned town business district.
okay,
That's the properties this impacts.
yes.
Alright, so any questions from,
Yeah, I
okay.
actually, I guess I wanna know for myself, because I don't know what my signs are, how far back they are and all that kinda stuff.
yours is way more than 1 foot.
Okay, so they're, cause
Right,
I was
I
gonna
mean-
say,
I would,
Technically,
you're,
your
no,
grandfather-
yours, I was measuring signs like yours to figure out what the dimension, how many square feet we needed to have.
mhm.
Because I didn't wanna pass something at 25 square feet and then we still had 15 signs in town that were 35.
As long as it wasn't blocking few.
And it doesn't.
No,
No.
just saying, in
No.
theory.
I
So
mean,
we
your
change
sign
this.
is
Your signage
Okay.
is more than.
perfect
I
for
think that-
things, it just, the way that current UDO says, your sign doesn't fit.
Yeah,
So we're just changing things to make sure all the signs
yeah,
that are currently up fit, and then we can start adding new ones.
okay.
Now,
Cause I don't know, I haven't looked around at the different signs through town, and I don't know that there's a whole lot of.
There's a lot more than you can imagine.
Really?
Well, the one that really catches you off guard is, so yours was kind of, I knew it was there, but didn't know, you know, it's kind of, you drive by it every day, but you don't pay attention. But the bank sign is huge compared to what a lot of other signs are. Your sign, there's another sign, well, the Pizza King sign doesn't meet, and that's the funny one. He said the Pizza King sign didn't meet, and I'm going, that sign's not that big, but it's bigger than what we allow.
Uh-huh,
And it still,
And the
it still wouldn't be
apartment
meet the current code, it's all taller than 10 feet high.
It's all
and so
taller than
I
10
think
feet.
what my main
Because
question
it's coming
is,
out of,
are we
the-
gonna grandfather any of these
Yeah.
signs?
Yeah.
that-
yes.
usually
you-
be, just like it is today, be legal non-conforming.
Right,
Okay,
that's what I was gonna say, you become, but if you ever went to change it, then you have to conform.
Right.
okay,
But the biggest thing,
And
one
if
of
somebody mowed down that sign, somebody drove off the road,
which has happened.
Actually,
Yeah.
she could replace that as long as it's in kind, or if she wanted to repaint it, that's allowed to stay legal non-conforming.
what you're saying, if they make a business change and she wants to, and
Yeah.
Leanne decides, I want a new sign, at that point, she has to make the changes. But if it's
okay. So if
accidental,
somebody just
those
damaged it,
kinds of
she'd be
things.
fine to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, alright.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't,
Any other
I wasn't worried about the existing
Just the
signs
grandfather.
meeting everything, it was more, you know, we have all these signs, I don't wanna have a code that says,
Right,
you know, after he brought this up, it's like, why have a code that's so much smaller than what everybody else is already? Cause that's the first thing everybody's gonna go is, well, theirs don't meet, you know?
yeah,
We can get at least closer to that, you
yeah,
know, it makes a lot more sense.
I think 30 square feet sounds like a much more reasonable size of a sign anyway, but, so.
Okay, so I guess I need a motion on the table to start on the amendment, to change the sign ordinance for the permanent signs, or add actually, we need to add the sign ordinance for the permanent signs, cause we don't even have one.
Permanent freestanding sign.
Permanent
Yes.
freestanding
Yes,
sign,
it's just freestanding sign.
yes, right,
Not attached to your building.
to 30 square feet with a maximum height of 10 feet, with a 1 foot setback off the property line, and subject to the visual triangle.
I make a motion to, move forward on editing the UDO for the new sign sizes and permanent freestanding.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll start through the process of public hearings and submission to the town council. All right, and then the second item we had was, what else did we talk about? Oh my goodness.
Zoning map.
Zoning map, yes, the zoning map. Our zoning map is not good.
Well, I mean, it was developed in 2011, that's the most up-to-date version we have, which means it's out of date. And so we've made multiple zoning changes,
Right.
since then.
Oh my God.
He's gonna grab the most recent version of the map.
This is the
So-
most recent version of the map that we have today to work with.
So we're,
So that was, put together, by Kaiser Consulting in 2011. Jeff did reach out to GRW to get a price, like a quote on what they would charge to update it, to get us to an updated version. We probably should reach out
I'll
to
get a couple others. just-
Kaiser and ask them what their, same kind of thing, what their update.
Cause somebody's gonna have to do some research to find out what changes are been made from this. Obviously, there's probably been an annexation or two on here.
no,
No?
No, we've had no annexations, other than James's.
James Penner.
James Penner's is the only annexation down the sewer plant.
Well,
There's
see-
one, I
see-
forgot about that one, but that's,
but yes,
But it,
Yeah.
I mean, that looks to me like all that green
no,
open space is,
It's down
oh,
there.
he's down there
he's
further?
down there, yeah. He's actually at that jog right there.
Okay. So, yeah, we annexed in 10.6 acres of James Penner's land. We also annexed in
Our
our
treatment plant.
wastewater treatment plant property.
Right.
So, the existing plant and plus the 2.97 acres on the south side of it. So those are annexed in last year.
We do have several rezones though, cause you've got Tony
Right.
Morane's property, all of the, developments by Dwayne.
Right, Dwayne Lane's properties are all rezoned. Yeah, Tony Moraine,
so we'll just have to find the ordinances and provide them, so.
yeah.
But once somebody puts this in a GIS situation, it becomes easier for us to maintain it.
Access is maintained, right? Does Snyder Beacon offer that at all, since they provide that to the county?
They can. Most communities, the larger communities also have their zoning map on Snyder Beacon.
I was just wondering, would that be a way that we could maintain this
But
easier?
they're
Pretty pricey?
paying extra fees to do that.
Okay.
And we're already paying extra fees to IMGIS to have the same
Oh, okay, okay.
ability.
Okay, I didn't, okay.
So,
Once we get this done once with we'll import it to IMGIS and
Then you can look at it.
then I can maintain it or Doug can maintain it.
yeah, so everybody can have access to view it. I mean, we're gonna put, once we finish manipulating that setup, because we just got it started, we'll put a link on our website so everybody in town can look it up. Because, you know, there's a lot of times they call here to the office and what zone am I in, or, you know, what, whatever kind of, so they can pull it up themselves and look and see
Yeah, I
what that says, or,
had 3 last week call and say, I'm doing an appraisal for ABC property. What
Okay.
zoning district is it?
Okay.
Beacon will generally give you
Huh?
that. Beacon will generally give
No,
you.
Clayton's
some of that.
not in.
It's not in it, not
Even
all
on
of
the
it.
tax bill, well, not all of it, but some of them I've looked at will say commercial
You have
or
to-
say,
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you R1, R2, R3.
you know,
It'll say it's a residential assessed property.
Right.
yeah, it won't tell you what.
which we,
I understand.
we were going over this, the other day in the office here, and some of those colors, I'm like, I mean,
This one's better than the one that's hanging in my office,
Right.
which is a copy of this, and this color and this color look exactly the same.
Same.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
You know, the
we will
different
update the colors to,
Town business district and highway business look to be the same color also.
Mhm.
And, so that to me was kind of frustrating. I thought if we could have a color and maybe a number also, I don't know if that's doable, or just, I mean, I don't know, but
you have to
pick one or the other.
because you don't, otherwise you'd have numbers on every parcel.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
But sometimes they'll use a hatching pattern across it too.
Oh, something to distinguish it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
Yeah,
and there's also, there's modern, colors out there that are much more ADA compatible with vision and stuff.
Alright,
So, it's one of the things, if you're like on a public website, there's certain colors you wanna stay away from, cause I know people who are colorblind have
Oh, yeah.
trouble seeing certain colors, and there's a couple that are pretty common. Different shades of blue all look like one shade of blue to certain people.
alright, so, is everybody in agreement that we should try to
I think we
move
need
forward
to-
with that?
I
So
think we need to
Jeff
update
will
that.
get the quotes for us, and then, we can email those out to everybody and then talk about it, at our next meeting, see if we can recommend getting a zoning map update. And then it'll get uploaded onto IMGIS, and then
I wonder if they could do it for us.
we can, IMGIS? Oh, I don't know,
I need to go back and look and see what they've got on there.
Yeah, I don't think they will actually do the update to that. I think they just manage the data once it is uploaded, but I don't think they'll, like, they won't go through and make sure that all our zones are, I don't know. You could ask, I guess. Now, when we're talking about zoning, I guess another question that came up, to me anyway, is, I mean, what's our purpose of having all of these different zone classifications? You know, and is that something that we, you know, want to amend or look at changing, or do we think that that's fine just the way it is?
You mean like the definition of commercial use?
Right, what does R1 mean, right?
Well, right now you've got R1, R2, R3, R4, and R5. So you got 5 residential zoning classifications. For a small community, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And that includes single family and multifamily. So I would, you only probably need 1 multifamily at this point in time. But it's lot size is what it is really to differentiate, deriving this. You probably 2, maybe 3.
So I know when we started into this process back when the big thing was with the old part of town and the lots being so much smaller.
Because according to this, you really have no R1 on this map.
Right, because we have nothing that qualifies for R1. Well, no, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Because that would be a dark blue, and there is
Yeah,
no
there's
dark
no
blue
dark
on the
blue,
map.
yeah.
Is that, can we, you want to combine R1 and R2 into one zoning district?
So
What's the class?
and that's what I was going to
R1, R2, R3, R4, R5.
There's definitions in the first part of the UDO,
So
what
the
it
lot
means.
size
Because this-
minimum R1
When
versus
she created this
R2.
UDO, she just took your existing
Right.
ordinances
Yeah,
and
she
didn't make
didn't
any
add or
changes.
subtract anything, she
No.
just merged the 2 different, ordinances together.
So basically, it boils down to lot size. So your R1 lots are your minimum as an acre, because it's, well, it's, no, yeah. 43,560.
That's an
Yeah,
acre.
that's an acre. Yeah, so for R2, it's 15,000, which is third of an
30
acre.
acre.
Yeah, roughly. R3 is 1,000, 10,000, I'm sorry. Now, Old Town, we have it 5,000 square feet, because we have a lot of small 5,000 square foot lots. That zoning, we made the determination will never grow. That is the existing lots of the Old Town of Clayton. And, you know, we're not gonna make more R5. That's just not something we're gonna do. So, I understand what he's saying about R1 versus R2.
You can leave it in there in case somebody wants a,
Well, see, that's what because as I've talked to James a little bit about this development, he's talking about some larger lots, maybe doing some larger lots down there, if he gets kicking
you
off.
can always do larger than what's required.
Right, right.
So if R1 went away and R2 was that larger included everything, I mean, is the only difference between R1 and R2 the size of the lot?
Minimum width is 90 foot versus 110, so there's 20-foot difference there. Your setbacks change by 10 feet. Your rear yard setback is 15 versus 25. This is a big one here, is primary square footage difference is on an R1 you have to have at least 1,700 square foot of floor area versus 1,200 square foot.
Oh, okay.
So there is a considerable difference there. The other thing is maximum lot coverage, which would be if somebody wants an ancillary, you know, an extra building or something, a barn or garage or whatever. So we allow 35, I guess they're both 35%, so it really doesn't matter so much there. They're both 35. I thought one was 35 and one was 40.
Building heights are the same.
Building heights are the same, yes. Front yard setback minimum is, that says, see footnote 1. Oh, okay. We have a 50-foot on a principal, or that's what he was talking about earlier.
Yeah,
So it'd be, subdivision road would be 25 feet.
and look at the difference between R2 and R3. It's the same lot width.
Same lot.
The lot size is 10,000 versus 15,000.
Yeah, I don't think there's a reason to have an R2, R3, really. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
That may be the way.
That may be where we combine it to one.
If you want, I can kind of go through and make some recommendations back to the
That would
board.
be- Yeah, that would be a, because there's no difference other than the square footage of the lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
And-
just
and the-
seemed like
and the width.
something to, if we're going to redo the map, this is the time to say,
Yeah,
can we make this simpler? Can we reduce this down some?
And
So
that would still give us 3 resident, single family, because you got Old Town plus 2 other districts.
two on
Now, what about I don't have my book in front of me, but what about the commercial side of things? So if we're gonna look at our map and we're gonna have these distinctions of things,
What does TBO stand for?
Town Business District, it's a D,
Oh,
Town
that's
Business
the,
District.
okay.
Yeah, Town Business District. When I first looked at that, I thought it was to be determined.
That's your,
I said, what? Why do we have a zone of to be determined?
that's your traditional downtown business district. Any new business district will be developed as highway business district,
so we'll just have
And what is
one,
HB?
highway business.
Okay.
so we'll just have basically 2 commercial use.
No,
Zoning.
no, we have 4, actually. You have town business district, highway business, you have I1 and IU, which is, I believe, utility.
And what is PUD?
I1 is industrial,
But IU is
PUD.
industrial
planned
utility.
unit development, and you
What's
may
that?
have one of those. If you get a large residential subdivision,
Right.
they'll probably come through as a planned unit development, and you negotiate all the setbacks and everything you want in them.
Okay, so we have that on here even though we don't have any,
Correct.
correct? I was gonna say,
IU is
I don't
is an
see any
institutional
brown
district,
It's just, okay, like your schools.
Right.
Okay.
which
Just
Institutional.
trying to make sure if we were making any changes or
No.
needed to add anything.
although the schools are right now zoned residential.
No.
No,
They're purple.
are they
Right.
institutional?
The schools and the churches and the library
Are
are
all
all in the
institutional.
same zone. So they
Yeah,
all have
that'd
the
be
same
that
zone.
institutional.
Library's not.
Is
Yeah,
that
it is,
purple?
never mind.
Yeah.
Couldn't see that far down the book table.
Yeah, it's the institutional use.
Okay.
Which would be correct.
So let me ask you another question here. Do you have a multi-use
That,
zone?
if you're gonna do a multi-use zone and do that, it'd be brought in under a planned unit development. Like if you got commercial out in front of residential,
Uh-huh.
if somebody's gonna do that as one planned development, you would bring that in as a planned unit development.
Like what
Okay,
plans
but we don't have that already in the.
You've got a planned unit development section in your code that would allow that type of,
Okay, because that would be me. I would be,
Right,
Multi-use
you're in
and
town
the-
business district on the map, but you also live there.
right.
you're probably not gonna find too many uses like you are in
Because
modern
the-
code.
We kinda ran into this when they were doing probably that, because they wanted to, rezone our property as business. But then if we ever went to resell, we could not resell the house because it's zoned business.
Business, right.
So we have to have that,
Well, some of your codes will allow
Zone
your
and
residential and business to co-locate too, I think.
Yeah.
Or overlay.
What zone would a new development be if it had, say, not just like a clubhouse for an apartment, but actual, like, some of them have daycare, some of them have workouts, some of them have a pool
What
that
you're
you may have to pay a fee, or it may be incorporated in your,
If it's just an apartment complex, is it apartment
or even a
complex?
house, like even a house, like in some of the places in Avon.
Avon and Plainfield and Brownsburg,
And
they're all
Brownsburg.
done as, they're typically done as planned unit developments.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. Where you have, break out different zones and,
So it's
Well,
kind of synonymous
yeah.
with multi-use then. right?
No, it's not
No.
multi-use, no,
No,
cause
okay.
each one of those districts will have its own classification if it's condos or,
I gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, basically you write your own zoning code for the development. That's what a plan unit development does.
Okay,
Everything's negotiated,
okay.
from lot size to setbacks to
Mm,
road width to,
okay. So
everything's negotiated.
So if all that becomes developed, like you guys have talked about for years, that's what they'll have to do.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
And my guess is most developers will come in, if they're doing a 100-unit subdivision, they'll come in and ask for a plan unit development.
okay, that makes sense.
Did they do that with Gilbert Woods at all, or no?
No, it was done in sections.
Three,
Uh,
right?
Three
I remember
sections.
Three sections.
Yeah, it
of
was three
but-
sections, and it was done as private development, but see, at that time we were falling under county. That was all done under county code,
Oh, okay.
because we didn't have
Is that the new section?
the new
right here?
section in the back yet.
And that could be done under like an R2.
Yeah.
That would fall under the R2.
It's R2 on there right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It would probably, you could probably do something very similar to that under R2.
Yeah, it's just a small development, it's not a, yeah, it's not something that's got,
It wouldn't be like if we got annexed down 39 and
No,
we put
no,
up big
no.
shopping centers,
Yeah.
or like Plainfield just did with
Well, that brings up another
apartments and
question.
shopping centers.
You don't have, well, you got highway business to come under there. You don't have an office, but you don't have much office demand out here. You could always create that later.
yeah, I mean, we have a highway business and a business district and an industrial, which is pretty general, don't get me wrong. But, you know, as things start to complicate, yes, we're gonna need more divisions, but
Right now, you're fine. Because you could put office in an industrial or in the highway business.
either one, yeah, exactly, just trying to keep it simple.
So what is the zone for Clayton Cafe? There's apartments above,
That
there's
is
Town
restaurants.
business district.
Town business
Oh.
district, that's part of the old town, or
Okay.
town business.
In town business district, according to the UDO, allows for multi-family dwellings,
Okay,
which is what those apartments are considered part of.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to look at possibly combining maybe R2, R3, I think that's a smart decision, just to try to eliminate a coding section, that's my opinion. I don't see a lot of,
We wouldn't have had to give the variance or change the zoning for the doubles
And
at
Doug,
that point in
if
time.
you remember from
Right.
GRW's original proposal to you, they gave you this, to combine it into UDO, but they also gave you a quote to help you go through and review the code as well. There was a price that they gave to that.
Oh, okay. That was,
Yeah.
I know that she
She had
gave us
three-
three phases.
There was 3 phases, you've only
And we went
completed
through phase one.
right,
Right, we did not go on to the
In
next.
phase 1, it was combining with the UDO and also incorporate all of the legal changes in like your sign code, some use stuff that there were some state changes, code changes that we had to comply with.
now there is one thing that we have to watch, this is one thing we need to look, R2 versus R3, use for doubles, because I remember we got into that with, Dwayne's development. We had to change him to a different zoning to allow him to put the doubles in.
I know the property of 5029 was R2, and we needed to switch it to R3 for him to be able to do the
So
double.
that would be one of the
Split it.
things we would have to allow, we have to put something in there.
And that may be a reason why not to change it.
Yeah, and that, exactly, that might be, that just popped, Nick actually brought it up, and I'm just bringing my memory back that maybe that is something we need to, think about. We need to review both those a lot deeper.
Well, but I mean, if we merge the two and just in the new one, whatever we call it, it's now allows for
Right.
all of the options that we had in both R2 and R3.
If you wanna allow it,
Right.
Yeah.
there's pros and cons to.
Well, that's what, and I
Sure.
think that's where so the biggest thing you start doing it, you got a double now. I've lost 5,000 square foot of lot space, and that was, one of those things. I'm crowding these doubles on the smaller lots.
And doing a duplex, allows more rentals in a neighborhood
Right.
traditionally.
Right. So there's just.
But I mean, even with the smaller lots, those were all,
I'm not.
we
arguing.
allowed
Yeah.
every one of those doubles
No, I
under
agree.
the understanding that, okay, we know we're putting a duplex
We
in a smaller
basically
space.
we allowed him to do a duplex complex in that area. I mean, cause you know, we haven't spread it all over town. And I'm
Sure.
not saying that that would be the best option somewhere else in town. I'm not saying I would
But
deny
as
it.
you look at new development, if you wanna stage traditional zoning on, potential traditional zoning on it, it may be a reason why not to combine
separate
those
them.
two.
That's something we just need to do a little more depth on, to see what the.
Yeah, I guess if we had a pros and cons kind of
yeah,
a list.
I'll try to look at some.
And
of these.
there's no, in my opinion, there's no hurry to do that
Right.
at this point in time.
Sure.
That's just something we need to kind of take a look at. All right, Cindy, you didn't carry that mailbox in here for nothing, did you?
Well, Doug took 1 month away from us, so he only gave us 8 months to get it done. But then he said he wanted it for October instead of November, so we hurried up and
I
took.
don't remember ever saying I wanted it for October.
Jeff told me you wanted it for this meeting. I was like, how come Doug's being a turd and took a month off? But anyway, so I put 4 coats on it last night.
He
in the
made that
process.
up.
Spray painted my feet and in our shop over there. But the stencils I have, I've decided, it's still a little bit tacky.
This
But
was,
I've decided I'm going to
this was
not
your
spray
idea
paint. I'm
from
gonna
last
paint
year.
it on.
Oh. is
So we're
that-
making this
I need to turn around.
the
Yes.
letters to Santa.
Yes, it's all
Oh,
up
okay.
in our
Mailbox.
house. So this mailbox was actually given to Jeff and I. The one that Doug brought us was super cute, but it was gonna take a bit more welding than what Jeff had time for because he just got 2 emergency jobs. So we just donated this one to the town, and it has a lock and it's sitting on my desk over there. And it has the little flag, and then I just thought, and you guys can decide how you want it. It can say North Pole on this side, I measured it, I can fit it. And it can say Santa mail here. The problem is that I might have to get smaller lettering for Santa on the front here, or Santa mail, maybe you could just say Santa. And then I've got like a snowflake stencil and like a little reindeer stencil. I think I left that one at the building. But I was just sitting here thinking about it, this is not gonna work, I'll take this back, because no matter how much I blocked everything off last night, overspray was everywhere. I couldn't go outside, so anyway, that will just ruin what I have painted, cause like I said, I can still see it probably needs another coat in some places, and that was 4 coats, so, anyway, so that's what Doug's idea was, and Leanne's idea was to create a cute little letters to Santa mailbox, and then I have some greenery and some pine cones and stuff where somebody else can zhuzh it up, whatever. But that was Doug's, so this will be completed.
Where would you?
Wherever he said.
We're just gonna put it on the front porch right outside the door and, you know, then, kids in town we can advertise on our Facebook or our website. Kids in town can drop off their letters to Santa there. And then, we can, you know, get some volunteers, I guess, to respond to letters, or, I mean, you don't have to respond to the letters. I think the kids will just enjoy the
You
idea
know,
of,
Cascade used to have, when, I don't know if Miss Flint is still over there, so I think she's retired. But I think she was part of maybe the Honor Society, and they always used to do a thing Christmas time where they, brought in kids, needy kids from the schools, and they had like a Christmas party for them and gave them gloves or hats or I don't know what.
Well, I mean, even when our boys went, they had the giving tree.
Maybe that's what, it was, she had a big thing at
And then
Christmas
they got
time
to
that she
give them,
did.
it was,
Yeah.
emotional, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we did
And was that
for
the
years.
Honor Society?
It was, well, Gunnar was part of that, but Kyle did it too, and he wasn't
Okay.
in the honor society, so.
So I don't know if they
His
still
paperwork.
do that, you know, type of thing, if they might be interested in.
Yeah, it was really
Kind of
cute.
incorporating that in their.
Cause they had like a
Christmas
breakfast
thing.
for 'em, and they came in,
Yeah,
I
I
think it was like,
remember that now.
remember that, they
Yeah.
had like the little sweet, and then the children were given their gifts, so each student got paired up with a child, and, yeah, it was really special. And some kids, you know, got multiple things, and it was, yeah, I would love to get the school more involved in it. I think that's awesome. I mean, I think it's. a
I think it
wonderful
would
idea.
help, I mean, I feel kinda like with Cascade being, you know, so far removed from the town, I don't feel like we have a good
Mhm.
working relationship from the, you know, the town government and the school government
Yeah.
or whatever, but, so I'd love to see us figure out a way to build that back up,
And you're
make
welcome,
some connections.
and we're welcome to use the parts room of our store after hours. That table expands, I was telling Doug, it expands to 10 feet. I already have Head Start coming in, on the 14th, and they're gonna hold their meeting there during the day. I gave them a really good price for that, so they're just gonna do their little Head Start meeting in there. And I just thought, well, if the town wanted to have a meeting there or hold some sort of, I don't know, fun thing there in the evening. During the day, it's just me, I'm a little bit spent. If somebody wants to come in and kinda help out with that so I can watch the cash register, that'd be fine. But after hours, I don't have to worry about the cash register. So that room can be, you know, a little special place for that. Now, obviously, it's not gonna hold 50 kids, but, you know, it can hold some, it can hold some people, but it'd be kinda nice. And we might be able to pair up and do like pictures with Santa or something. We did go buy a copier so we could take pictures and be able to give it to them digitally right away. We're gonna do that at our holiday open house anyway, so I'm looking for a good Santa, preferably one that doesn't smell like booze. So.
You mean I can't drink?
I'm sorry.
Oh my
I know
God,
that's
look
a
at
little.
these days off.
Santa I know.
I'm being a little snobby.
You should have
but
told me
I'm
back
gonna
in
say
the
no.
spring, I'd have done had it grow out.
Actually, the really best Santa in town is Tommy Branstetter.
Okay, well, I'll
You know
take
who
that.
Tommy
I
Branstetter
have
is?
no idea. No.
He
Matt
is,
said his dad.
yeah, it's Matt's dad, but he's 2 doors down from where the liquor store's going in the old Body Works, okay?
Okay,
But he used to work at Kroger's,
okay.
and Tommy's got a big old belly on him, he has a big white beard, and he's balding on top.
Love it.
And he worked at Kroger's for years, and he would see kids in there, and they'd see him, and he'd go, and he said, them kids would straighten up. He said they could be giving mom fits, but they'd see him, and it's like, he's watching. But Tommy, we'd have to get hold of Tommy. He's
Yeah.
retired now. He's
So just somebody sweet.
he used to do
somebody
it. Well,
loving.
he kind of sour, but he likes the kids. He does. He's hard to hear.
No bad Santa, that's
Yeah.
not my thing.
No, he's not.
No, I'm just kidding.
He's just really hard of hearing, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for the kids.
And that, that's what I'm looking for, somebody that really it'd be like a, kind of a calling for them, you know what I mean, like something they really
You know who
enjoy,
does
so,
Santa
yeah.
stuff?
Who?
Bob Hudson's brother or
Yeah, that's
relative, I
I
don't
can't
know
remember
who
what
it was.
his name is. He does it with he drives around because his truck says
Yeah,
he's got
He's a good
stickers on his.
Santa.
Yeah, he's a real good
he's a very good
I have to
Santa.
get
You gotta
his
give
name.
Bob a call.
I have to give Bob a call. That's another one. Yeah. Do you have a stand for that or anything, or have you thought about that?
Jeff was
Have you
gonna.
thought about that?
Yeah, Jeff said he was gonna actually like make a way to connect it onto a post or
I
something.
can remember what we talked about.
Yeah,
Like I
Well,
said,
if you
it's
need
not
help
giving
with that,
us
let
8
us know.
months to
I'm
get
sure
this done.
between Nick and I and Jeff, we can, because if he's buried, I understand.
Well, it's just this one company, he doesn't get a lunch break, he leaves his main job, runs over there on his lunch break, then they want him again right after work.
Oh,
And we get called all weekend, emergency job, so yeah, he's over there right now.
True, I know what that's all about.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that'd be cool. So where are you, so you and Jeff already discussed it, are you doing like a mounting plate and a post, or what are you guys doing?
yeah, I mean, we just talked about, just like maybe a 2-foot
Okay,
stand
okay,
to set it on so that,
yeah,
when it goes out here on the porch, it'll
What about
just stand up there.
okay,
a car rim? I got a big truck rim. I built a tree to hold my alignment stuff out of a truck rim. It's heavy and it doesn't blow over because
I'm only asking because it is kind of heavy, so
A
if you
truck
fell on a kid.
rim.
it would be-
And then with a
Pickup
post in
truck,
the middle.
16-inch rim, and then you would take a piece of plate, cut it in a circle, weld it to where the wheels, lug nuts would, and weld your post on it, and then you put a plate on top, and you can bolt it.
Oh, okay.
Perfect, perfect.
And you can paint it red, and then you can, whatever.
Wrap stuff around it. or
It
whatever.
would
Sounds like
give you
Nick's
a.
volunteering for another part of the job. There you go,
I was
Sydney.
willing. We'll be
So
glad
when
to
you're
help.
done,
I got a
when you're done, take it over to Nick. He's gonna put it on a
Yeah.
truck.
That's fine. I
Truck
don't
rim.
I think
got it.
children's hands will get pinched in there though, do you? I didn't even.
No, that'd be fine.
See how it kind of right there?
I thought that part locked and they just there's not a little slot on the top
No,
for the mail to go
lock is
in?
down here. The lock is down here, that's why.
Oh, okay.
No, kids will be fine.
They'll be fine.
Oh, yeah,
If they stick it in and then,
yeah, close
Yeah,
the
they'll
lid.
be.
Very good. I like it.
So, are you trying to catch up a little? But on the Santa thing, you're just doing like a one-time deal like the fire departments do? Like cookies with Santa? Is that what you were
well,
talking
we're
about?
going to be
Or-
doing a fall.
Just
although-
letters.
Yeah.
No, I
and then
understand. I just,
Oh, you mean at our place, just to,
Just setting it out.
this is just
saying,
letters that.
kids,
I know it's
bring your
something
letters
good
to
for the
Santa
kids.
to the town hall.
Right.
To
Yeah.
me, it's a community building thing.
It is.
Leanne actually came up with the idea last year.
Love it.
She couldn't find a mailbox, so I looked around. I found one at a
Yes.
thrift store.
Which is that one's adorable and very traditional, it's just got a sharp thing that needed to be
Yeah,
welded.
part of the door
sanded.
had a little break in the
So
metal.
they were two separate with the Santa.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay, then
This is just the letters.
This is,
thing.
yeah.
Set it out there. See what we get.
And I know, my niece is
Yeah.
taking a pic, her boys are huge football players, they've been playing varsity since they were like 13 or 14, they're huge. But they still, every year she makes them get a picture in front of there's some, I guess it's downtown Indianapolis, I don't know, but every year it shows up on Facebook, and my nephews Ike and Mike, they're putting their letters into Santa.
I think it's
super
down in
cute.
one of the old airs.
It's a super
What
cute
about a
thing
little
to do,
sign?
I think.
I think
yeah,
kids would love to do
I
it.
do too.
I'm just gonna throw in a bad thing here. Is there a camera out on the front porch?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cause I could just see a teenager
Oh, yeah.
putting some kind
Yeah.
of
I stopped by one night after
Something.
work, and Matt texted me. He's like, "What are you doing at the town hall?" The camera actually alerted
Okay,
him that somebody came into the building after midnight. So it was,
Oh,
he's
okay.
got it set up to where the camera actually sends him a text message. Somebody approached the door after midnight.
Yeah.
So there are, and Jeff has access to
I got
watch the
access, too.
cameras, and Jenny has access to
Cause
watch
it
cameras.
just seems like
Yeah.
it here lately,
Sure.
maybe it's my age or something, but
No.
it's
It's
like,
not your
it
age.
just seems
It's-
like,
No,
Just
if
a cycle.
somebody can do
Lot of damage
something
in our building,
bad,
so trust
It's
me.
the cycle
It
of
happens.
life. Like, you got a bunch of young kids again, 12 to 15, 16-year-old kids running around the neighborhood now. A few years ago, you didn't have it. They were just getting to that age, and
yeah,
then we got a little bit of a gap, and then there'll be another wave of them.
yeah.
I do have one really Scroogey old lady remark to make, and I'm sorry. It's the mother in me. I'm a mom of 5. I have 6 grandbabies. It scares the heck out of me. The kids flying by our store windows on skateboards and on, those little tiny, they're like a little electric bike.
Scooters.
They're not paying, well, these almost look like, I hate the term crotch rocket, but I don't know what else to call them. They're real tiny, but they're not paying attention at all. Those doors swing open.
Yeah.
They swing open, and they just fly by, and I
Is
just
that
didn't
the-
know if we have any.
Is that the little kid on the little green thing that's right up against the ground that he
Isn't it-
just kind of?
No, not
No,
that one.
no, there's
But
some kids
but
around
that one's
little-
too young to be without adult supervision.
Like dirt bikes almost.
They are scared, yeah, and they are, this weekend, they were just flying by, and it scared me, cause I'm like, they're gonna get hit by a car, or they're gonna collide
Well,
into somebody. We already had a lady fall.
Unfortunately,
Remember we
that's
talked
their
to you
mom
about
and
it?
dad's problem. Because when they break your door, they're gonna have to teach little Johnny or Susie a lesson. And
I'm more worried about the kids getting hurt. Yeah, I don't
They
wanna
break
replace
them.
my dumb door, but at the same time, I'm worried about the kids getting hurt. I'm worried about somebody getting knocked flat by the kids too. So I don't know, again, I want kids to have fun, but there's no way in heck my kids were gonna be 6 years old on a bike crossing the street without adult supervision. Just not happening, but in town, it's very common. They're
I
like
think
6
our
to 8 years old.
problem is that we don't have a police presence.
you wouldn't catch
Oh,
him.
Well, I just didn't know if we had a rule for it. is what
No,
I
they
mean.
hide. He was out the other day. The
I
kids.
seen that earlier yesterday.
You probably
They were
have
out
a rule, no
patrolling the other
motorized
day,
vehicles on the
and
sidewalk.
they come flying through, and then a group of the older kids come flying through on the motorized scooters and stuff. And all of a sudden, you hear them had a code word, and then they all right underneath a commercial business semi trailer and hid.
Oh,
And then
Lord.
one ducked out and looked, and then they all took off as soon as they get.
See,
Kids are kids. They're
I
gonna
know,
do
it just scares
those
me.
things.
I'm just
I
scared.
have seen that kid on that,
He's
that
gonna,
little moped.
he's gonna
He
get
was
hit by a
going up
car.
and down 39 one
It's actually not a
weekend.
moped, that's a Honda 50cc mini bike,
Mhm.
is what that is.
But
there's
He's
a-
not supposed to be on the road no more.
Right.
He,
Well, I
I
just-
mean, he was,
Yeah.
Is that the one that's also on the
yeah.
sidewalk? Is that what the
Mhm.
thing is that he's riding on? Because he's not even cognizant of the fact that those doors open now. There's two businesses there now.
Yeah, we
So
just
they go
gotta
up
get,
and down the sidewalk, and I was just wondering if we
Timing.
ever said anything like, hey, not on the sidewalk, or,
Look at everybody
Of course, it'd be
driving
worse
down
in the
there,
street,
causing
probably.
people-
I don't know. I just don't want the kids to get hurt. That's my big concern. I'm like scared to death. But Jeff's like, they're gonna face plant. Oh my God, they're gonna face plant. He's as worried about as I am. Like, they're gonna get hit by a car.
We-
Sorry, go ahead.
The one thing I wanted to ask about, because I brought it up when she was talking about the Santa deal and having space. At one meeting, when we were out in the park last year, we had talked about with Dan eventually looking at a community building. It was never, it was just something that was mentioned. Is that something that we ought to think about presenting to the town council at some point in time and a place to put it? As the
Oh, I
town
think that's a
grows, kinda
wonderful idea.
like Amo has their building and, people in Hazelwood, I mean, they're not really a town down there, but they have the place they can rent. Is that something we should look at for the future?
It's in our comprehensive plan.
yeah, I just wonder.
2012, they introduced the idea of let's build a community center, and it got put in here.
I'm wondering if some of this, with the fire department changes coming, might free our building up a little bit there. Is that not, if they build a new fire station with the new fire territory in the next 3 to 5 years?
If, there's a lot of ifs in that.
I understand.
One of the things that I know from my perspective as a town council member, I don't want this fire station going away. Even if they build a new building, I expect the new group, the new fire territory, to still maintain a presence in town. Because the whole purpose of pushing for a fire territory would be to say, we want 24/7 coverage closer than Plainfield. And so if all of a sudden now they're down at 1,000 South 24/7 and nobody's here, then I'm not gonna be happy with that change as a
Shouldn't be.
resident
Well, you
in town.
shouldn't be.
So,
I honestly don't believe that. I think that the fire station needs to be in Belleville personally. I don't care what, I mean, that's central to the township.
Unless we got funded,
I mean, it is,
unless
but-
they got funded enough to run 2 stations.
or, I mean, the warehouse district down there, the TIF district at the interstate, is primarily pulling runs for the fire department during the day.
Right.
Runs they get in Clayton are typically at night, so there's no reason they can't
Shift, go from one station to the next.
split the difference. And now obviously that's not set in stone, obviously, but in my mind, the goal would be post where your runs are gonna be at the times of the day that the runs are typically happening.
I agree.
So, but again, there's a lot of what ifs in there that hasn't progressed far enough to say, yeah, we're sure this is gonna happen. So,
I remember we had talked about that, and
Yeah.
when she said that, it kinda dawned on me that we, reminded me that we had spoken of it. So I don't know if we should look at it. I mean, you got room down there at the park, you really do, to put a nice building, and then you've got parking as well around that building. I mean, technically, cause you got the big playground, you got the gazebo, you've got the shelter house.
but
and
it's
then
in the
you've got
comprehensive plan that we were going to work towards that, so it's still in there. We can certainly, look at all the things in place, in the comprehensive plan that we were going to do to work towards that, and see if that's, still a plan,
Right.
and it's still feasible. Speaking of comprehensive plan, because the town did not qualify for the subsidization for the wastewater treatment plant, I reached out to Mike Klein-Peter, our grant administrator, about can we use our bid for an Okra grant for a comprehensive plan update. So his response was less than encouraging. They have a point system, Okra does. So every time you shoot for a grant, they say, well, let's see what the numbers show. So he gave me all the points that we currently have. That added up to 442, which I didn't really know what that meant, but that's the number we got. They typically don't fund anything less than 450, so we're 8 points short. So I'm like, great.
Just give it to us. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the state of Indiana. They have a cutoff, and we have to jump through the hoops to get to that cutoff. So he gave me some, the feedback of the breakdown of the score sheet and where we're at. So the biggest way we can make up those points is by our grant match, our match of the grant. So if we're getting a $40,000 grant and we match it with 10,000, that gets a certain number of points. If we increased our grant match, to 15 or 20,000, then that could bump us up over that 450 threshold kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of us going to the town council and saying, do we have enough to use a $20,000, chunk out of your budget
Yeah.
for a grant match for a comprehensive plan update kind of thing. So
How do they usually do that, Doug? Is that a percentage? I mean, like,
Yeah.
if we're asking for $100,000, do we have to come up with 50,000, like 50%?
no,
What's
it's not.
the-
Yeah, the grant match part is figured into giving points. So I think with this one, he gave the match in here. He just threw these numbers in of if you matched a 50,000 grant with 10,000, then you'd get 16.66 points. I don't know how that worked out. That's just what he came up with. So now, do we need 50 or 60,000 for a comprehensive plan update? And the marketing company that was here last fall, or was it spring?
Spring.
Maybe it was spring.
March. Yeah.
In March, they kind of indicated whatever number you give us, that's the comprehensive plan update you're gonna get. So if we,
Everything from what looks like a published book to a binder.
yeah, so they had all kinds of different levels of things they presented. It was, some of them were very fancy, some of them were, just like, a little binder with, the little plastic rings in them and stuff. And it, so it just depended on the detail you want to go into. So if we, asked Mike to drop it down to, we're only shooting for a $40,000 grant and we have $10,000 match, then, or do we want the
So
big
that'd be
dollar?
25%.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
that would, that just kind of boils down to those kinds of things.
And so that would be for every grant that we would want to
They have that scoring
Then it
system no
would
matter
be-
what.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a
if
few of
we
these
were to
things.
come up with
Planning grants,
25%.
Different types of planning grants will have one metric, and some of your bigger construction grants will have a little different metric. So there is some differences. Sometimes if you're going over a certain method, some grants will say it's an 80-20 match at a minimum,
Mhm.
no matter what you get.
Right. I mean, we have, some different things that we can't change in town that hurt us. I mean, our median income in town is $73,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that hurts us when it comes to asking for grants, because they're saying, you guys already make a lot of money comparatively. I mean, some like, when they put together that list of all the people who got awarded the SWIFT funds, I mean, there were some of these communities, their median household income was 28,000. And I'm like, wow, that's median household income. And so we're at 73, which is great for us. I mean, we're a thriving community, and Hendricks County is like 5th on the list of richest counties in the state. So that's good news. However,
Yeah.
it's also like when we go, well, we want a grant, and then
Right.
we're, well, you
Make
guys
too much
already,
money.
yeah, so it's, you know, it's like when you apply for student aid loans or something, and they're saying, you make $150,000 a year, why do you need a loan?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, so, but, anyway, those are some of the things, you know, that we just, we have to live with, so,
So if we dropped it back to 40, I mean, I'm gonna give you my opinion of the comprehensive plan. We don't need a published book. We just need something that's presentable to give us a plan to kind of guide ourselves a little bit in the next 20 years.
The biggest cost of a comprehensive plan is your public gathering,
public
your public
hearings,
meetings.
public,
Right.
you
The
steer
public meetings, the
things, yeah.
calling, getting all the background, that's the biggest cost. How many public meetings you want, how much outreach are you doing, and how you're doing it, that's a lot of work.
Sure.
Right, and, I mean, I don't wanna scrap this comprehensive plan completely, so, to me, we're doing an update to this one, we're gonna, you know,
You should be able to get a nice update for 40 to 50 grand.
yeah, so if we drop that,
To 40.
the grant, we want a grant for 40,000 instead of 50,000, and then we'll kick in a grant match of 10 or 15, then that would increase that number significantly, with the percentage changes. So those are some things to think about on, you know, what we wanna do going forward.
So
When's the
how-
deadline
how-
for that?
Yeah, exactly. What's our deadline?
Well, they do this once a quarter, so
Oh, right.
technically, I mean, 4 times a year, we've got, so we're not gonna make it this quarter that we're currently in, but
We can
if
make
we
it
move
fresh.
forward, yeah, I mean, so,
Here's an idea, if to fund it, you can fund it across 2 fiscal years as well, if you time it right, where half the funds could come out of one fiscal year and half the funds could come out of another fiscal year, if you wanna go that route.
So if we could split it, if we say we do match 15 on the 50, we could take 7 out of this budget and 7 out of next budget.
That is a potential.
Or 10 out of this budget and 5 out of the next.
I've seen communities do that.
sure,
I mean,
yeah, that would be another option.
I'm not trying to spend their money, I'm just trying to understand, I understand what you're saying. I'm
But
just
if,
trying-
you know, we got 5 grand in this year's budget, or, you know,
I think we had, did we ask for money for that, didn't we?
Not this year. we
Not
didn't.
this, we was looking at for the following year, that's right.
Right. So, and, you know, I mean, if we don't have a budget line item that says grant match, and there's something important that comes up, the town council can say to our clerk treasurer, can we transfer some funds to a grant out of something else?
so you're not doing an annexation, you put 20 grand in an annexation budget, and you're not gonna use it, you can move that, or,
Right.
as an example.
Okay.
So anyway, that's the email I got back from Mike, so thought I'd share that with you.
Anybody got anything else?
I have one other little question that this came up in my mind, and when you're talking about grants, are we allowed, is the town allowed to do like a GoFundMe type of thing? Like if we was to say, we're wanting to put, new swing sets and stuff, play equipment, and could the town do a GoFundMe type of thing? With that
You can do,
in
yeah, you
mind?
can do fundraisers of any kind. I mean, you could, you know, if you wanna do it like just, you know, donations, or you wanna sell something, or, yeah, you just have to have your parameters set. Obviously, you're a government entity,
Yeah,
and
that's why I
getting
didn't know.
private funds, there's rules about that, but you're allowed to do that. You just have to make sure that it's all above board, and all the funds are tracked, and the State Board of Accounts has all their bells and whistles that they make sure you follow.
Or you can
It's a private
partner
bid.
with a nonprofit or a church, or if the church wants to fundraise for, you know, swing set, and we can do, there's different ways to do it.
Anything else? It's 7:29. We've had a pretty good meeting tonight. I'm pleased we had enough to have one. We'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Okay.